this afternoon. We're at Target Field in Minneapolis for the third of a four-game series between the reigning American League champion Texas Rangers and the homestanding Minnesota Twins. And welcome inside the broadcast booth, Matt Vasgersian. The red-hot Texas Rangers have had a share of first place in the American League West for all but 14 days this season. They're playing well of late. They've led by at least 2.5 games in the West by the last 7 days. And as I welcome Mark Grayson to the broadcast booth, picking up right where they left off last year.
Yes, certainly, Matt. The Texas Rangers did a great job of staying afloat while their two stars, Josh Hamilton and Nelson Cruz, were on the disabled list. They're back now. They're healthy, and the Texas Rangers are starting to hit on all cylinders again. We'll
talk about the injured stars for the Twins when we come back. We'll also go through starting lineups and bring you right to opening pitch. The aggressive, high-octane offense of the Rangers on display. Back from Minneapolis with lineups and opening pitch right after this. Third of a four-game series on tap between the defending AL champion Rangers and the host Minnesota Twins. Let's get you right to the starting lineups for the Rangers. Brought to you by Taco Bell. Think outside the bun. Ian Kinsler, Elvis Andrus, Josh Hamilton, Adrian Beltre, all All-Stars last season. Nelly Cruz, an All-Star in 2009. The left-handed hitter Mitch Moreland's at first base, batting number 6. Ex-Angel Mike Napoli, the left-handed hitting David Murphy, and veteran Andy Chavez round things out for the Rangers. Opening pitch is brought to you by Budweiser. Great times are waiting. Grab some buds. On the mound for the Twins this afternoon, making his 13th starting assignment of the season, veteran right-hander Scott Baker, coming off a winner last time around, threw the ball well in Cleveland Monday, though he surrendered a couple of home runs, something that's been an issue for him during the season. Baker improved to 3-4 in his last outing.
Yeah, the steady right-hander. He's a guy that you can always depend on to take the ball every fifth day. He's got a very good fastball. But what he needs to be successful is he has to have good command of his off-speed pitches. He can't just be a one-pitch guy and get this really, really talented Ranger lineup out today.
Take a quick look at Ron Gardenhire's defensive unit today, brought to you by Scott's. It's Young, Revere, and Dinkelman in the outfield. More on the rookie Brian Dinkelman as we continue. Valencia, Casilla, Tolbert, and Kadire in the infield. Don't look at me like that. Rivera catching Scott Baker on the mound this afternoon. Yeah, not a lot of household names on that 25-man roster for the Minnesota Twins the way it stands. Dana Demuth, the crew chief, is at third base today. Paul Nauert calling balls and strikes. We'll talk about the Twins and where they are in terms of their roster with some of their injured stars on the men throughout the telecast. First pitch of the afternoon to Ian Kinsler. 1 ball and no strikes. Kinsler, Andrus, and Hamilton started for Texas. The Rangers start play, Gracie, at 36-29. They have had a 2.5 game lead in the West for the last 7 days, and Ron Washington has watched the rest of the division kind of bottom out. Trouble in Oakland. Seattle not as hot as they were a week ago. There's a fly ball out to center field for Ben Revere. And on the other end of it for Ron Gardenhire, looking up not only at the rest of the pack in the Central, but at the rest of the American League.
Yeah, and Ron Gardenhire, these Twins were the best team in baseball last year in the second half. They're going to have to be this year, but they've got to get Joe Mauer back and get him back healthy. And they've also got to do something to get that bullpen a little more consistent for Ron Gardenhire. They've really struggled in that area as well.
1 gone for Elvis Andrus. Well, the Twins thought that maybe things were on the uptick, having won 7 of 8 heading into last night's ball game. They were on the bad end of a decision yesterday in Game 2 of this series. But we'll talk throughout the telecast about the reasons for the Twins' April and May collapse and why there are plenty of people around here that think it's not ridiculous for them to get it back together again to make another push.
Well, Cleveland Indians, they're starting to come back to the pack a little bit. They got off to that rocket start. They've certainly cooled. Chicago White Sox have had their ups and downs. Tigers playing better baseball.
That's rolled out to second base for Matt Tolbert, and 2 quick outs for Scott Baker. So 2 gone, bases empty for the 3-time All-Star and 2010 American League MVP Josh Hamilton. It's been well documented, Mark, that the Rangers are simply a different team with him in and out of the lineup.
Oh, there's no question about it. He's the guy that changes the way opposing managers manage against the Texas Rangers. He's a guy, okay, do we pitch to him in this situation? Well, in this one, obviously, you do. But he is a game changer. He's a guy that every time he steps in the box, that opposing pitcher's like, I better not make a mistake here.
301 with 4 home runs for what's been an injury-filled start to the season for the reigning MVP, as he falls behind Scott Baker quickly 0-2. He's driven in 10 in his last 8 games, has Josh Hamilton. And there are the numbers we're talking about. With him, 20-8. Without him, under 500, and the offensive numbers fall right in line.
And it certainly makes sense. He's just so talented. And about that same time he was out, Nelson Cruz was also nicked up as well. So that's why I think Ron Washington has done such a great job this year, even better than last year, keeping these Texas Rangers on top.
And a wave and a miss, and a very good start to the afternoon for the veteran right-hander Scott Baker. Texas 0, Twins coming to bat. for the Rangers. Let's get you right to the Twins Taco Bell starting lineup. Think outside the bun. Ben Revere has been certainly a pleasant surprise of life atop the order for the Twins. He leads off this afternoon. Alexi Casilla playing very well of late at shortstop. Kadire Young and Rene Tassoni at DH. Talk about the young Canadian designated hitter as we get going. Danny Valencia, Brian Dinkelman, Rene Rivera, and Matt Tolbert round things out for Ron Gardenhire's Twins. And on the mound for the Rangers to make his 13th starting assignment of the year, right-hander Colby Lewis, Mark, who's coming off a clunker last time around.
Yeah, an absolute clunker against the Detroit Tigers. Got hammered, gave up 9 earned runs his last start. And we were talking to Ron Washington early in the game, and he was saying if he can locate his fastball early in the game, start hitting corners with it, now he can use that off-speed slider, and he's got one of the better sliders in the game. But his problem his last start was that fastball location. It just wasn't there.
The 9 earned runs over 3 1/3 came on 10 hits, and included in the damage 4 home runs in Lewis's last outing. So here's Ben Revere to start the home team in the last of the first, and Lewis throws in strike 1 to start the day.
He's a big guy, doesn't throw all that hard, just in the mid to high 80s with the fastball. There's the slider. Didn't get the call there from Paul Nard.
I guess the good news is he walked only 1 last time out there.
You know what? You've always been a glass half full guy, Matty. That's what I've always admired about you.
A ball and 2 strikes from Colby Lewis. And if you want further good news for Lewis, he's been great away from home, almost counterintuitively. He's been terrific away from his home ballpark. In fact, his road ERA is the best in baseball this year. 2 balls and 2 strikes is how he starts Ben Revere. There's that number, 2.17 in 6 road starts this year. And a full count to Revere now, 3-2.
Throwback from Napoli gets away.
Alexi Casilla next. Michael Kadire in the hold, underway here in the bottom half of the first.
Revere, if he can find his way on, he can create havoc with his speed.
He does find his way on a base hit into right field. Quick look at the Rangers defensively, brought to you by Scott's David Murphy, Andy Chavez, and Nelson Cruz in the outfield. Adrian Beltre won a couple of Gold Gloves in his career. Elvis Andrus, Ian Kinsler, and Mitch Moreland around the horn, and it's Mike Napoli receiving Colby Lewis today. Rangers have had some defensive shortcomings. They have committed an American League worst 50 errors in 65 games. See if that plays a part in the proceedings today. Here's Alexi Casilla now.
Well, the Rangers, as a unit defensively, they're awfully good hitters. They don't beat you with slick defense down in Texas. They like to just hammer away at you with extra and homers. Defense? What's that?
Switch hitter Alexi Casilla in from the left side. Revere running, and that's slapped into the opposite field. Murphy's up with it, and Revere will get to third as he was off with the pitch, and just like that, the Twins are in business in the home first.
Ron Gardenhire with his makeshift lineup today. He knows he's got to take some chances. And they play hit and run. Revere sees it, easily scampers to third base. And just like that, Colby Lewis in some trouble again this afternoon.
And now one of the few power threats in Ron Gardenhire's lineup this afternoon, Michael Kadire. And in Michael Kadire, the only guy that's seen anything of Colby Lewis for more than a handful of plate appearances. It's that ongoing debate, Mark, the first-time look. Who's got the advantage in a batter-pitcher first-time matchup? The case is for these Twins, 4 of them today are looking at Colby Lewis for the very first time.
And it's always advantage pitcher. That's just the way baseball is. The great hitters are successful 3 out of 10 times. And the pitcher's always going to have the advantage. But there won't be any surprises with Michael Kadire. He has seen the arsenal of Lewis. He knows what the breaking ball does. He knows just how quick the fastball is.
Kadire has started to swing a hot bat here of late. Many of the Twins coming out of it over the last week and a half. Minnesota starting play today, having won 7 of 9. Kadire sends that into the gap. Endy Chavez runs it down, more than enough to tag and score Ben Revere. And it's the Twins who get on the board first this afternoon.
Just good veteran hitting right there by Kadire. Took a slider out over, didn't try to do too much with it. Just put a good protect the plate swing on it. Skies it out to left field. Chavez ends up making a running play to score the run. And really heads up base running as well by Alexi Casilla, tagging up at first base and getting into second, taking the double play out of order.
So Casilla in scoring position now with a run in and 1 away for Delman Young. You know, one of the things to watch for Kobe Lewis additionally today, and you touched on an important point there, as Ron Washington talked about the ability to locate his fastball. One thing that was happening to him Monday against the Tigers is everything was up above the belt. There's a base hitting to left. Now that's 3 first-inning hits and a run with only 1 away in the very top or very bottom of the first inning today.
And Matty, it wasn't even out of your mouth yet about leaving plates right around the middle belt high, and sure enough, that was a slider that just hung right in the middle of the plate, and Delman Young just ripped it into left field. That is the epitome of a slider that did very little. Those were fun to hit. Those were a lot of fun to hit.
So one of the less than household names now, Rene Tassoni, came to the big leagues as a 36th round draft selection back in 2005 and was recalled from AAA Rochester at the end of April. This is his second stint up with the big league team. And one of the reasons he is here is because of the injury bug that has perhaps ravaged the Twins more so than any other team in the big leagues this season. The notable absence of Joe Mauer has been well documented, and we'll talk about his rehab as the Twins feel like he's getting closer and closer to getting back to the big league level. Justin Morneau also held out of the lineup today. A variety of maladies has sidelined that former American League MVP, and that one bounces away from Napoli. 2-0 Twins.
Well, it looks like this is a changeup that just gets spiked in front of the plate. No chance there for Napoli. Right now, Kobe Lewis, somehow, some way, he needs to find a way to get to plan B, because plan A hadn't been very good so far here in the first inning. Mike Maddox, the pitching coach for these Rangers, who's done a great job with these Rangers, turned them into a very respectful pitching staff.
And there is ball 4. So runners at first and second now. Single, well hit sac fly, single walk, and here comes the aforementioned pitching coach. He's going to put that right hand on his starter's shoulder and try to figure things out. That's Brian Dunsing, who was victimized by the one big inning yesterday in the Rangers' victory.
It was a short outing for the young left-hander.
And Mike Maddox with just as much conversation for Mike Napoli, Mark, as he had for his starter on his way back into the dugout there.
Well, because of Ron Gardenhire's reputation of moving runners along, he's got Danny Valencia up there now. He may just put on another hit and run, try to keep his foot on the accelerator. he's got to love what he's seeing so far out of this, as we said earlier, makeshift lineup here this afternoon.
Valencia starting play at 220 with 27 runs driven in. Runners at first and second for him. You know, oftentimes, and you played in enough situations like this, Mark, when injuries take a lot of your thump and a lot of your swagger, a manager's put in a position where he feels like he has to push the right buttons and create. That's the way Joe Madden manages this year. You know, you can't go toe-to-toe every night when you look at two lineups on paper. And let's face it, you see an offensive team like the Rangers, and you see what the Twins have to play with here in June. Getting creative is a part of that success.
That's exactly right. He didn't go on that. Yeah, wouldn't it all? Every manager would love to have a lineup like Terry Francona has in Boston. Yeah, that'd be nice. I want to run about 7 superstars out there and just outslug you. Well, Ron Gardenhire, that's not what he has here in Minnesota. His 2 big stars aren't playing due to injuries, so he's got to piece it together. He's got to take some chances.
3 balls and a strike to Danny Valencia. It's a long and distinguished list of injured Twins. They have pulled up 14 players from AAA Rochester. Never in franchise history have they gone to the AAA well that early, that often. And, of course, some of the big ones there, including Justin Morneau, who is not on the disabled list. There's ball 4.
And it would not surprise me at all if Ron Washington and or Mike Maddox might make a phone call down to the bullpen. It has been a real struggle so far in the first for Colby Lewis.
This looks, unfortunately for Mike Maddox, exactly like the Colby Lewis that struggled on Monday against the Tigers. And rarely do you say a guy with Lewis's track record picked up right where he left off after a clunker. But so it would seem this afternoon. Here's Brian Dinkelman now.
He's just really having trouble finding the strike zone, and that's what Ron Washington said, and that's the scouting report we gave. He has to be able to locate his fastball, and his location so far in the first has been nil. That's a good fastball to the outside corner there.
1 ball and 1 strike to Brian Dinkelman. Another one of the Twins rookies starting this afternoon. Was hitting .296 at the time of his recall from Rochester. An 8th round selection in 2006.
That was his best fastball of the afternoon right there. And Dinkelman was tardy on it.
The 7th Twin to come to the plate here in the bottom of the first.
He elevated that fastball, and you can see just how tardy Dinkelman was.
And the 1-2 pitch is dumped into right center field. That's going to score at least 1. Here's Delman Young to Sony right behind him. 4-0 Minnesota.
Another slider that stays up right around belt high. Dinkelman doesn't try to do too much. Just puts the ball in play. Catches it right off the label. Strong enough to get it out there in front of the outfielders. And the Minnesota Twins are laying it on Colby Lewis.
Brian Dinkelman's first 2 career runs batted in. And they have made it a 4-0 ball game. Rene Rivera now. To your point, Mark, I'm almost surprised not to see somebody up throwing in the Rangers bullpen. I understand it's only the bottom of the first. I know that there's been officially 1/3 of an inning thrown by Colby Lewis. But going back to last time around, this is not the guy that had so much success in the postseason of 2010. 0-1 the count to Rene Rivera. Lewis's story, of course, is a good one and almost a familiar one now, given the success he had last year with Texas. Originally drafted by the Rangers back in 1999 as a first rounder. got to the big leagues a few years later, and then spent a few years up and down between AAA and Major League Arlington. Out to Nelly Cruz for out number 2.
Or just any kind of out right now for Colby Lewis is more than welcome. That's a lot of runs to be given up out of the gate.
My goodness, he's like the American League's version of Edinson Volquez. Get him out of the first inning. So with 2 gone, 2 on, and 4 runs in, it's the number 9 hitter, Matt Tolbert.
He now balled Edinson Volquez. He cut off those dreads.
It's almost sad to see the Milli Vanilli look go away.
Can't get enough mentions of Milli Vanilli.
Matt Tolbert, the switch hitter, in from the left side, starting play at 2:06 this afternoon. After Colby Lewis left the Rangers, he was claimed off waivers by the Tigers, signed with Oakland in 2007, and then went to Japan. And the way the story is told, it was in Japan that the light went on for him. That's not entirely true. It was the 1 year he spent with the Oakland A's in 2007, where, according to Colby, he really learned how to pitch. It just so happened that he went to Japan for the next 2 years and was able to translate it into success over there. But he says that his time in Oakland was really when the light went on. So by the time he got back to the Rangers, he was a completely different guy.
He had a lot more polish to him. And anymore, you still have a lot to learn at the major league level. And that's the case with Colby Lewis.
A base hit past Mitch Moreland. A 5th run will be waved around to score. How about the Minnesota Twins and the start they're off to this afternoon?
I know it's a broken record, but watch the location of this fastball, folks. He wants it away. It is center cut right down the middle. Good swing there by Tolbert on the mistake by Lewis. And as we speak, there is some action out in the Rangers bullpen. Scott Baker loving life in the Minnesota dugout.
Yeah, here's a 5-run lead. Dave Bush is up in the bullpen for the Rangers. And Bush more than capable of being that long man, a starter for most of his big league career. Back to the top of the order. Minnesota bats around in the first. Ben Revere started this mess with a base hit back in the first inning. That was about 15 minutes ago, without a commercial break.
Got a high strike there with the fastball.
RBIs in this inning by Kadire. A pair by Brian Dinkelman. Matt Tolbert has cashed in with a run batted in. An additional run scoring on a wild pitch in this very productive bottom of the first for the Twins. And that slap to shortstop and should get Colby Lewis out of a very troubling bottom of the first.
They shell-shocked Colby Lewis.
5 runs on 5 hits, and after just an inning, it's 5-0 Minnesota.
That's ball 4.
Minneapolis back with Mark Grace, Matt Vasgersian, and a beautiful start to the proceedings if you're a Twins fan. 5 in the first, their most prolific first inning all year long. And make no mistake, this is not the 27 Yankees we're talking about, nor is it the 2008 Twins for that matter.
Not at all.
This Twins team doesn't score that kind of bunch as they did in the first. And here's Adrian Beltre to lead things off.
Scott Baker with a large cushion to pitch with.
Beltre sends a ball to center, well hit, and Ben Revere can straight run him down. A fine running grab in center field.
Well, just a terrific play, as you said, by Ben Revere. Great speed, about 400 feet away, just turns his back, runs the baseball down, and saves extra bases. Concentration perfect.
One down here in the second now for Nelson Cruz. Cruz starts play this afternoon, just 2 of his last 16. One of those 2 hits, however,
was pretty loud, wasn't it?
Was pretty loud indeed. $15 home runs this year for Nelson Cruz. And dare I say, I'm not sure he could get a hold of a ball any better than the one he got a hold of earlier in this series. 5 of those 15 have come this month.
Out there in this stadium where souvenirs rarely go.
Take it back to Thursday, 8th inning with the Rangers down a run against Nick Blackburn. The 5th longest home run ever hit in this ballpark's history. Granted, it's just a couple of short years.
Still.
But when you hit one 450, as Nelson Cruz did on Thursday, that's going to drop a lot of eyebrows.
Yeah, you just don't want to be the one that's in the way of that ball coming your way.
Jim Thome has the distinction of the longest home run in this ballpark. And it came last September. Cruz with a high drive to center field. Revere will have a play on this one shy of the track. And there are 2 gone. 4 keys to the game. Mark, score 5 runs in an inning. Is that one of them?
Well, I was going to say, for the Twins, just keep playing the game. You're gonna get your guys back. So just keep plugging away. And with the Rangers, stay the course. And the course is they're starting to take control of what has turned into a very mediocre American League Western Division. So just stay the course. And somewhere in there, I should have written for the Twins, score 5 in the first.
2 gone now for the left-handed hitting Mitch Moreland. Moreland bringing a 9-game hitting streak, a career long, into play today. Yeah, the West looked like it was going to be as competitive as could be when Oakland's pitching staff was right. Seattle started playing well. And it's hard to ever discount a Mike Scioscia Angels team. But it's been the Rangers that have been the class of the division for the last year plus. And a quick 1-2-3 second for Scott Baker. Times are waiting. Grab some buds. 5-0 Twins as we go to the home half of the second. The 2-3-4 batters, Casilla, Kadire, and Young for Ron Gardenhire. Boy, really a perfect afternoon for baseball. Been kind of a Jekyll and Hyde weather week in the Twin Cities. They had some real hot, muggy days as recently as 5 days ago, and
103 degrees 5 days ago. Awesome right now.
Here's Alexi Casilla leading things off. He takes a big swing at Colby Lewis and sends a ball to the wall. That's Alexi Casilla. Not a noted power threat. And there have been some very healthy looks against Colby Lewis this afternoon.
Yeah, you just have to wonder how much longer the patience of Ron Washington is going to be, because right now his big right-hander is getting hit very, very hard. Another fastball in the middle of the plate, another rocket, and now Casilla diving into second base with a ripping double.
Breaking ball has Michael Kadire swing and miss. Kadire drove in a run in the first, part of a 5-run opening frame for Minnesota. This is a Twins offense, and it's worth repeating as Kadire chases another slider, that ranked dead last in runs scored, next to last in home runs, slugging, and on-base percentage in the American League. They're third from the bottom in batting average. The injuries have really ripped through the lineup. A ball and 2 strikes, the count to Michael Kadire. And Denard Span is one of the latest to fall on the injury bug. He's on the 7-day disabled list.
New disabled list.
Something that Major League Baseball instituted to protect against concussion syndrome. And Kadire's caught looking. Justin Morneau, of course, was lost in the entire second half last year because of the concussion. He's nicked up with various maladies as we speak today. Neck, hand, wrist.
It's just been a tough last couple of years for the former MVP.
One gone runner at second now for Delman Young. Ron Gardenhire has been quick to point out, as he did for Mark and I today, that Justin Morneau is not at 100%, and that's why the numbers have fallen off so dramatically. But he understands that he's needed with so many injuries around him, and he's playing under less than ideal circumstances at this point in the season.
Well, it's very rare in June that a player is going to be 100%. It just doesn't happen. Fastball right by Delman Young. You're going to have to play with injuries. You're going to have to play nicked up. That's just part of the bargain here at the major league level.
Ball and 2 strikes, the count to Delman Young now. And part of what's happened here with the Twins, with the worst record in the American League, is that number. 39 players used. The most in the American League. 14 bodies up from AAA Rochester. Ball and 2 strikes to Delman Young. And it's one thing, Mark, when a team like the Twins, who have, let's face it, been among the American League's elite under Ron Gardenhire, 6 postseason appearances in 9 years. If somebody goes down and, say, a Danny Valencia has to come up and fill a hole, or a role player comes up for a 2-week period from AAA, then there's still enough going on around that guy to where he doesn't have to carry the load. But where the Twins are now is that an entire class of players has had to come up. And that's tough sledding.
Yeah, it's pretty much Rochester West here in Minneapolis, if you will. So many terrific players missing so many games.
Still 2 balls and 2 strikes to Delman Young. 5 runs on 6 hits charged to Colby Lewis in an inning and a third so far this afternoon. My goodness, 50 pitches. And there's the damage when you add in his last start Monday. Runner goes. Throw down by Napoli is not in time to get Casilla.
Once again, pressing the accelerator. The high throw from Napoli allows Casilla to just get in there on a rough tag by Beltre. That's the dangerous part of going in head first, all you youngsters out there. A lot of times you might have about 225 pounds fall right on top. If you can see Mike Napoli, none too pleased with the call. But it looked like that was the correct call by Danny Demuth down there at third base.
Infield comes in now with a runner at third and 1 gone. Full count pitch home to Delman Young is a base hit into center field. Well, Delman Young just shortening up and flipping a breaking ball right back up the middle to make it 6-0 Minnesota.
Just gorgeous hitting right there by the veteran Delman Young. A slider, and he's just sitting all over this slider. It's not a bad one on the outer part of the plate, but Delman is just sitting right on it and just smokes it up the box, and I think that is going to be all for one Colby Lewis.
An inning and a third this afternoon by Colby Lewis.
Painful exit for the big right-hander.
Second, his shortest start since his second year in the big leagues back in 2003. The numbers are pretty gruesome, and when you add that to the 9 earned through 3 1/3 on Monday, that spells back-to-back clunkers for the veteran right-hander. So enter Dave Bush, making his 12th appearance of the season. Dave Bush didn't come to the ballpark thinking he was starting today, but guess what? An inning and a third into it, and here he is with a runner aboard and 6 runs in for Minnesota.
Yeah, unfortunately for Colby Lewis, he's going to have to probably spend a lot of time looking in the mirror and trying to figure out just what has gone wrong in his last 2 starts. Dave Bush, a veteran with a good curveball and a lot of heart. He's going to have to throw the baseball for at least 3 or 4 innings here. There's that curveball.
0-2 the count to Rene Thome. How about this for a little name play, Grayson? First time 2 Renes have been in the lineup, the same lineup, in big league history. Rene Rivera, Rene Thome.
Now all we need is somehow, some way, Rene Latchman to show up and be on the coaching staff, and we'd really be making history.
Coach Rene Gonzalez out of retirement.
Yeah.
Already with that, huh?
Breaking ball. That's a shame, isn't it?
Swung on and missed. The big yacker gets Thome to strike out, and that's the second out of the inning.
We said that he has a very good curveball, and Thome found out that but quick. He saw a couple of them in that at bat, swung and missed badly at both of them. Dave Bush's job right now is just to try and come in and restore a little order here.
Here's Danny Valencia with a run in. Valencia walked and scored in the 5-run first. And on one hop for Andrus, who flags it down and pitches it to Kinsler to go the short way. One more in the second for Minnesota. They're on top 6-zip. We're back after these words from your local Fox station. Baseball presented by Sprint. Alongside Mark Grace, Matt Vasgersian, the Twins on top of the Rangers early on today. 6-0 Minnesota. Texas trying to take their success in small steps, looking for a base runner for the first time this afternoon against right-hander Scott Baker. They'll have Napoli, Murphy, and Chavez, the 7, 8, 9 part of the batting order today.
Baker's recipe for success so far has just been pounding the strike zone with fastball after fastball. Really just no nonsense pitching out there right now for Scott Baker. Perfect fastball to the outside corner.
A ball and 2 strikes, the count to Mike Napoli. There have been some consistence here in Minnesota that date back, of course, to the days at the Metrodome, the days under Tom Kelly. You hear it said so often, Mark, the Twins way, quote unquote.
Right.
Solid fundamental baseball, pitch well. It's a staff that is historically not walked a lot of guys, at least under this combination that's in charge now with Ron Gardenhire and pitching coach Rick Anderson. And it seems that as a part of that success, there's always a Scott Baker on the staff, a middle of the rotation guy that's going to give you 30-plus quality starts, or 30-plus starts, many of them.
He's going to take the baseball, right?
Take like that Brad Radke, make him hit a bunch of ground balls. Nothing flashy in terms of the radar.
But you're talking Brad Radke, a guy like Kevin Tappan, he comes to mind. Just a right-hander that not going to light up a radar gun, but he's just going to give you innings. He's going to be solid, steady, keep his mouth shut, stay out of trouble. That's another perfect fastball right there. And he catches Napoli looking. But it's very true. In that Twins way, I guess that is part of Tom Kelly and now Ron Gardenhire's way. Find someone like Scott Baker to give you consistent innings. I mean, yes, it's always nice to have a star in your starting rotation.
Pitch to David Murphy is sent out to left center field. Look at Ben Revere! Come on! Hey, even Scott Baker has to smile at that. Wow!
My goodness, that is one of the better efforts. No time in that one at all. Oh, my goodness. Yeah, I don't blame you, Mr. Baker. That may be worthy of a dinner. These fans still loving what they've seen from Ben Revere. What a great play.
2 gone for Andy Chavez. Scott Baker has still not allowed a base runner this afternoon.
And we were talking, yeah, it's nice to have Johan Santana's in your starting rotation, but guys like that don't grow on trees. You have to find them and go out and draft them and teach them that Twins way. Boy, it has been a lot of fun to watch over the years.
And all that makes the 24-39 start so much more difficult to understand. And a swing and a foul tip by Andy Chavez. Still 0-2 to the Texas center fielder. As a function of that success, defense and pitching, and we have seen both early on this afternoon. Fine defense by Ben Revere. That catch moments ago, outdoing the one he made in the second where he covered a lot of ground. Still 0-2. Baker working quickly, and his next 0-2 pitch on the ground is second. 3 perfect innings by Scott Baker, and some picture perfect defense by Ben Revere. Somebody get a hold of Jim Edmonds on the phone. Brian Dinkelman leads things off in the home half of inning number 3. 6-0 Minnesota this afternoon as the Twins put up a 5 spot against Colby Lewis in the first and then delivered an early knockout blow in the second. So it's been David Bush since 1 out was recorded in the second inning, an opposite field fly ball. And David Murphy's there to make the catch. There's 1 gone. Well, Dave Bush, as we mentioned, a guy who has been a starter for the majority of his big league career, and so much of that with Mike Maddox in Milwaukee. That same combination will play a bigger role here this afternoon than perhaps both parties thought a couple hours ago.
Yeah, been around a while now. Dave Bush got his career started in Toronto, pitched well there for years, did some good things in Milwaukee before landing down in Texas. And at this point, there just hasn't been room for Dave Bush to move into the starting rotation because Mike Maddox has done such a good job with this starting rotation. But now, after a couple of back-to-back really poor outings by Colby Lewis, I would imagine it would be crazy not to ask the question about Colby Lewis's stress.
I think other questions will be asked as well, as Rene Rivera has a 2-1 count against Bush. I mean, when you see a guy like Colby Lewis, who
he's a good one,
the baseball world knows is pretty good, and he has back-to-back starts the way he has, the inevitable questions about health are asked.
Exactly. That's exactly right. And for a guy with his talent and a guy with his track record, as you said, you just have to wonder if he's okay.
Full count now, 3 balls and 2 strikes to Rene Rivera.
But it's awfully nice to have a guy like Dave Bush to come in just in case something is indeed wrong with Colby Lewis.
Matt Tolbert waiting on deck. 1 gone, bases empty. Twins on top 6-0 early. Full count pitch from Bush, locked him up with a breaking ball. 2 gone. The 16 greatest moments in the big league's all-star game history are going head-to-head to determine which is the most memorable of all time. Go to MLB.com/moments and vote now for your favorite midsummer classic. And tune into the 2011 All-Star Game Tuesday, July 12th at 8 Eastern, 5 Pacific, right here on Fox to find out who won. Easy one for me, Gracie. Easy one. Reggie hits the light tower at Tiger Stadium. End of it right there. That's one man's opinion.
That's certainly.
Matt Tolbert swings and sends a high drive out to shallow right.
I'll give you mine when we come back. That's called a tease, Matt.
Stay tuned, America. 6-0 as we start the top half of the fourth, and Ian Kinsler will begin things for the visiting Rangers. Top of the order here for Texas: Kinsler, Anderson, Hamilton, and Scott Baker, who has not allowed a base runner through 3, goes right back to work with strike 1. So we have talked about the big story with the Twins being all the stars on the mend. And one of those stars is kind enough to take some time with us to chat here during the ball game. Jim Thome joins us here on the telecast. And Jim, first of all, we appreciate the time. And tell us how you're feeling. Tell us about your rehab and how you're feeling right now.
Well, everything's been going well. We got an injection the other day. Everything's been going good. We're going to swing tomorrow in the cage. And then if things go well there, hopefully go down to Florida and get things going down there. So it's been a little bit of a frustrating year as far as that goes, but, sometimes that happens. You got to deal with it and move on and be positive and get back as quick as you can.
And with the struggles of Justin Morneau's health and also with Joe Mauer's health yourself, how's Ron Gardenhire kept with you guys, and what's been his tone? Is he just is he as frustrated as you guys are, or is he staying positive?
Well, Gardy's really he's a positive guy all the time. Whenever you got a Mauer, Nishi, Morneau, who's been battling some injuries, it can be frustrating. It can be frustrating, but I give him a lot of credit. He's a positive guy. He comes to the ballpark every day. He's obviously written some lineups up, of some young guys that have come up and have done a wonderful job. So it's given them, if anything, it's given them an opportunity. And he's really, I think for the most part, he's really stayed positive throughout all this.
One gone here for Elvis Andrus. 10 in a row retired by Scott Baker to start the ball game. Joined by Jim Thome on the telecast. And Jimmy, let me ask you a little bit about yourself, your own career. I read some comments that you had made a couple of years ago. When you put some goals out there and you've accomplished so much in your career, 2 gone now as Andrus rolls out. You wanted to stick around long enough to have a chance to hit 600 home runs, and you wanted to stick around long enough to have a chance to play in another World Series.
Yeah.
Talk about those 2 goals and where they stand right now.
Well, I think the first part is to win a World Series. I think that's I was very, very blessed there in the 90s in Cleveland. We had an opportunity to go to 2 World Series, never accomplished it. And then I think when you've been to 2 of them or just one of them, I think it's something that never really goes away. And Gracie, you can attest for it. You play a long time, and everybody's dream is to celebrate the last game of the year and look in each other's teammates' eyes. I haven't had that opportunity yet to do that. So that I would say that will be number one. If I'm blessed and lucky enough to hit 600, that would be a remarkable thing as well, and something very special.
2 gone here for Josh Hamilton with the 2 balls, no strike count.
Hey, Jimmy, what do you like about Josh Hamilton when you watch him hit?
Yeah, I like his balance. I think he looks like in the box like he's always under control. He always, if they throw him a breaking ball, if they throw him a fastball, it seems like he's always on his backside. His balance is really, really good, and all good hitters, typically hit with great balance. They don't really get out of whack. They don't go forward very hard. He uses his hands extremely well. You can tell he trusts his hands, and that's when you win MVPs. That's what happens.
It helps you be really, really talented.
You have to be very talented, and he is that for sure.
Full count, 3 balls and 2 strikes to Josh Hamilton. Visiting with Jim Thome on the telecast. 6-0 Twins here early on, top half of the fourth. And meanwhile, Scott Baker has been the developing story this afternoon as he strikes out Josh Hamilton. Jim, we certainly appreciate the time with us. Best of success.
Thanks, guys.
Out there soon. We're rooting for you.
Appreciate it.
Ben Revere leads things off in the Minnesota fourth. Top of the Twins order, Revere, Casilla, and Kadire. Minnesota on top 6-zip. Back with Mark Grace, Matt Vasgersian. And Ben Revere has been right in the middle of Minnesota's early success today. He has singled and scored and made a couple of highlight reel grabs, one of which you'll be seeing over and over again tonight. And he dumps a base hit into the opposite field, making 2 for 3 to start the afternoon. Ben Revere was a first-rounder back in 2007 out of Lexington Catholic High School in Kentucky, named Mr. Baseball in that state back in 2007. Played in the Futures game in 2010 and grew up, Gracie, a big Twins fan because Kirby Puckett was his favorite player as a kid.
Well, there's a lot of children in their teens now named Kirby because of that man.
Here's Alexi Casilla now with Revere aboard. Casilla has singled and doubled, scored a couple of runs, and stolen a base this afternoon. Leadoff hitter aboard here in the Minnesota fourth. Third time today that they've put their leadoff hitter aboard. And if you're joining us late, David Bush came out of the Texas bullpen in the second inning today, as Colby Lewis was through after just an inning and a third. Bush got through the Twins in order in the third. Runner goes. Napoli's throw is too late.
Not a chance there. A great jump by Revere. And just zero chance at all for Mike Napoli.
Fifth stolen base in 6 tries for Ben Revere this year.
Well, this has just been an absolute flawless baseball game by these Minnesota Twins today. They've played about as perfectly as you can play. Oh, by the way, their pitcher's still perfect through this one.
A ball and 2 strikes on Alexi Casilla now. These Twins don't run a lot this year. And it's really a kind of a different feeling team than the one that used to run 4 or 5 years ago back at the Metrodome. Last year, only the Toronto Blue Jays stole fewer bases than the Twins. And that bagged by Ben Revere, just their 31st of the season this year. And a base hit into right field. They'll wave Revere around. 7-0 Minnesota. A reminder, next week on Fox Saturday Baseball, interleague play returns as these AL West leading Rangers head to Atlanta to take on the Braves, or some will see the Yankees and Cubs at Wrigley Field next week. Fox Saturday Baseball, presented by Sprint, begins at 4 Eastern, 1 Pacific. Check local listings for the game and start time in your area. And it just could be, Mark Grace, as Michael Kadire digs in, that Derek Jeter sneaks up on 3,000 hits.
That's exactly right. That could be the game.
A base hit for Michael Kadire. Already the 10th hit of the ball game for the Twins. Derek Jeter, the leading vote getter at shortstop in the American League for the All-Star game. And speaking of which, we still haven't heard your favorite All-Star moment.
Well, I'm glad you asked. Yours was the Reggie Jackson home run off of Doc Ellis in Tiger Stadium. Is that correct?
It was.
I remember as a much younger kid, one of the best throws from right field I've ever seen by Dave Parker to nail Brian Downing at the plate in Seattle, and Gary Carter blocking the plate to where Brian Downing still hasn't touched home plate.
Neither is Matt Holliday in 2007, by the way, against the Padres.
That's very true.
Get one of these guys to touch the plate someday. One time. All-Star game right here on Fox, July 12th, 8 Eastern, 5 Pacific, live from Chase Field in Phoenix. 0-2 the count to Delman Young. I mean, there are too many of those memories, I think, to vote on. Tony Gwynn scoring the winning run in Pittsburgh in 94, 3. Memory serves.
I want to say 94.
Okay. Fred Lynn grand slam against Atlee Hammaker.
Oh, yeah.
Nothing in 2 the count to Delman Young. Did he check it? No appeal. Paul Nowert says he held up on his own.
Well, I guess going back to All-Star games, one of the memories way before our time is Carl Hubbell's feat, striking out all those Hall of Famers back to back to back to back. Babe Ruth. Trying to think of some of the hitters. Babe Ruth was one of them. I believe Ted Williams was one of them. Johnny Mize.
Jimmy Fox.
Jimmy Fox. Jimmy Fox, not Johnny Mize. Jimmy Fox.
Ball and 2 strikes, the count to Delman Young. Still nobody out here in the 4th. And a breaking ball, pounded foul once more.
How about when Randy Johnson threw over the top of our buddy John Kruk's head? That was a memory.
That's a memory. That's an all-star memory. Bo Jackson.
Oh.
The year the game was played in Anaheim.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there's not much appointment viewing on television in general in the summer.
Right.
Kids are out of school. You know, the All-Star game, for years growing up as a kid, that was the one thing you set your watch by. How about a double play ball? Kinsler to Andrus to Moreland, and they turn 2. Well, one of the 16 greatest moments in All-Star history took place at Yankee Stadium in 2008. Score tied in the 15th inning. Justin Morneau at third. Michael Young came to the plate.
Pops it up, right field. Morneau tags at third. Throw by Hart to the plate. And safe. This game is over.
Go to MLB.com/moments and vote now for your Midsummer Classic All-Star Moments. Tune into the 2011 game on Tuesday, July 12th, 8 Eastern, 5 Pacific, right here on Fox, and find out which moment won. Runner at third with a run in and 2 gone now for the rookie DH Rene Tassoni. Quick throw down to third. Close. Casilla back at the bag without a problem. 1 ball and 1 strike. 7 runs on 10 hits. And not only no hits, but not a base runner on the other side of the scorecard. Clean as a whistle. Ball and 2 strikes now. Second season of baseball at Target Field in Minneapolis. And Mother Nature could not have given us a better day. You know, one of the things that I've noticed, and I know you and I have both been here a handful of occasions now since this ballpark opened. You never used to see so many fans coming to the ballpark at the Metrodome completely decked out in Twins gear.
I love it. I mean, so many jerseys of whoever their favorite player is here. You know what else I've noticed, Matt, with these fans? A lot of female fans here in the Twin Cities. Have you noticed that?
Wait a minute, you noticed that?
Some beautiful females in the ballpark here.
7-0 Minnesota. Adrian Beltre leads off the Rangers' fifth. Texas trailing 7-0 through the first four. Beltre, Cruz, and Moreland for Texas against Scott Baker, who has been about as stingy as one could imagine. He has set down the side in order in 4 straight innings. Adrian Beltre lined out in his first try on the best hit ball of the day by a Ranger. 1 ball and 1 strike to the 2010 All-Star. To 2-1 now. This series wraps up tomorrow. Twins will stay home, and that's good news for what has been a road-weary Minnesota team this year. They have technically an off day Monday. I guess you call that a travel day. They don't really stay home. Maybe they sleep in their own beds and leave on the day off for New York. They're starting a series, or the Rangers rather, in New York on Tuesday.
The Yankee Stadium's just always been a haunted house for the Minnesota Twins. Nice play down the line there.
The Twins do stay home, and they welcome the White Sox in next week. Chicago and San Diego coming in as a part of interleague play here in the Twin Cities. 2 balls and 2 strikes to Adrian Beltre. And a drive out to right field. Dinkelman on the move. He looks up and plays it off the padded wall. First base hit of the afternoon for the Rangers is a leadoff double by Adrian Beltre.
And you can tell the fans were thinking about a possible trip into history here by Scott Baker as they give him a round of applause after 12 up, 12 down. He just got a fastball up above the belt, and Adrian Beltre, he certainly got to it and threw it and drilled it off the center of the wall in right center field.
Here's Nelson Cruz now. He flied out in the second. RBI opportunity for the Rangers on their first base runner of the day. You know, Mark, you and I were talking about this before the game. Part of the charm of this ballpark is that it's not symmetrical. There are some quirks, in particular that porch and right, and it's not just the porch. It's the variety of different surfaces out there that right fielder has to be aware of.
And what are they?
Well, there's 4 surfaces. I mean, I'm no hardscape expert, but you got
limestone.
The limestone. There's a strip of concrete above the wood fence itself, right? So there's concrete, limestone, that's wood in the middle, and then there's the padded wall itself.
So balls are going to come rocketing off that wall, possibly right back at the right fielder.
A ball and 2 strikes, the count to Nelson Cruz. And I'm sure it's not so much fun if you're playing right field here in Minneapolis, or you're playing in front of the monster at Fenway. But for fans, some of those little nooks and crannies, I mean, that what makes the game sing.
Oh yeah, it's for lack of a better word, it's very cool.
I think that's the perfect word. Cruz still going on a ball and 2 strikes.
They got this one right here, certainly. This gorgeous ballpark, just a year and a half old, but they got it right here. What's your other favorite ballparks?
You know, among the new ones, this is near the top of the list, if not right on it, but I'm very fond of Safeco Field in Seattle. That's just such a wonderful place. The fact that you can slide a roof over that doggone thing and not feel like you're in a dome and still
very
play.
True.
Terrific ballpark, as this one is here. Ball and 2 strikes, the count to Nelson Cruz.
Oh my, what a pitch there.
Scott Baker reached back for a little something extra there, Mark.
He sure did. He just cleans the clock here of Nelson Cruz, zipping it to the outside corner, and a very defensive swing there. Nicely done by Baker.
Scott Baker, a big part of our Jeep game summary. He's worked 4 1/3. His first hit allowed came to open this 5th inning. On the other side of it, Colby Lewis was knocked around. 6 earned runs on 7 hits. He recorded only 4 outs. And among damage, first 2 career RBIs for Brian Dinkelman today. 1 out, 1 on now for Mitch Moreland. Moreland grounded to first in his first try today. Trying to pick up Adrian Beltre off the bag at second. Talked about Moreland having hit safely in 9 straight at the start of play today. You know, do you get the sense in looking back at the way the Rangers were built? I suspected that General Manager John Daniels and the player development guys in Arlington were kind of sitting on Mitch Moreland. Justin Smoke was the guy that they were putting out there as he's our future. He's a future batting champ. He's the guy. He's the man. They dangled him very skillfully in front of the Seattle Mariners to land Cliff Lee last year.
Right.
And not too many of us had heard of Mitch Moreland at the time.
I'm a fan of Mitch Moreland. I like what he brings to the batter's box and also to the first base position. He's a very big, athletic kid. Now, this guy can hit.
Battling to stay alive at 0-2.
I like his swing. He seems to keep the bat in the hitting zone for a long time.
Rangers had the depth at the position, and they used it to bring in a big performer and help get them to a World Series last year. And Justin Smoke, for his part, by the way, is having a great run of it in Seattle this year. Moreland swings and misses. And that's the 2nd out of the inning. Time for a DirecTV game break. Get every big league game and the most in HD. Call 1-800-DIRECTV. Bottom of the 1st, Cubs and Phils. Chase Utley off Matt Garza, bringing in a couple of runs. And the Titans off to an early lead. Cubs have since cut that 2-0 deficit in half. It's 2-1 game in the top of the 3rd. That is tough sledding for a Chicago team that has also, like these Twins, been decimated by injuries this year.
And the players that aren't injured just haven't played very well.
Fair enough. Cliff Lee on the mound for the Phils today. Speaking to the former Ranger postseason hero, Matt Garza for Chicago. He's been certainly hit and miss in his first year up there with the Cubs.
Beautiful
2 balls and
fastball.
Checked out a ball and a strike to Mike Napoli. How'd you like to be the Cubs, you know, kind of limping into Philadelphia? You got a 4-game series. Kyle Kendrick, and if you don't beat Kyle Kendrick, then you got Halladay, Lee, Oswalt.
Well, you punt.
1-1 to Napoli is slugged out into the opposite field for Dinkelman. Leadoff double, lay waste. one of a number of Twins lionized in statue form around the perimeter of this beautiful ballpark.
After that home run, we will see you tomorrow.
Oh, the great Jack Buck call. Back with Mark Grace, Matt Vasgersian, bottom half of the fifth. Twins on top this afternoon, 7-0 Minnesota. Danny Valencia picks on the first pitch and sends a shallow fly ball to right. One gone to start the home half of inning number 5. It's been Dave Bush ever since the second. Colby Lewis good for just an inning and a third today. Bush has allowed the one run since entering. That came in the fourth. And with one gone and the bases empty here, he'll pitch to Brian Dinkelman. You know, there's been so much made, Mark, about the Twins' struggles at home this year. And when they won game 1 of this series here on Thursday, it was just their 7th home victory of the season.
Ouch.
You know, here we are in early June. As Dinkelman rolls over and grounds it to second, Kinsler's got it for out number 2. You know, a lot of the story, as you take a look at the worst home starts in franchise history, this being among them in 2011.
Well, that 1904 bunch, that was just an underachieving crew. It just was.
A lot of this has to do with the fact that the schedule maker just didn't have the Twins home very often to start the year. They're in the midst of, in fact, just beginning a stretch of 31 of 41 here at home. Now, why are they home so often in the next 41 days? It's because they've hardly been home at all to start the year. They've played the fewest number of home games by far of any team in all of Major League Baseball.
Do you think that might be because this is such a cold weather city that they maybe had them out on the road as not to have games played in maybe 20-degree weather in April?
You know, that could certainly be part of it. Although, you know just as well as I do, there are plenty of cold weather cities in the big leagues that
sure
can't say that. I mean, the Cubs were home a lot.
Both Chicago teams, both New York teams, Detroit, Cleveland.
1-1 pitch is fouled away. It's 1-2 to Rene Rivera.
Boston always very cold. I got one of my games snowed out in Denver earlier this year.
Did the check clear?
Well, had to wait 10 working days.
Snowed out. Dream come true, my friend.
It was.
2 balls and 2 strikes. The count to Rene Rivera. I mean, when you hear people explain the low offensive numbers around the league in April and May, the next thing out of their mouths is cold. The cold is attributed to the frequency of DL moves, low numbers with runners in scoring position.
I'm not buying it. I'm sorry. I'm not buying it. How about you? Those cities have been Major League cities for an awful long time. I just think the pitching's better. And I'll walk that plank. It's nice not to have those performance-enhancing drugs in the game either.
Tend to agree with you. A 1-2-3 fifth by David Bush. Still 7-0 Minnesota. by Chevrolet, proud to support youth baseball across the country. And by Valvoline Next Gen. Back alongside Mark Grace, Matt Vasgersian. It's been all home team today. Minnesota on top 7-0. Scott Baker has been terrific on the mound. Ben Revere has been arguably even more terrific behind him in center field. And the Twins, after a 5-run first, have not looked back. David Murphy leads things off in the 6th. It'll be Murphy, Chavez, and Ian Kinsler here in the 6th inning for the Rangers. David Murphy lined to center in his first try today. Would love to recreate the success he had in this ballpark last year when he enjoyed a 7 for 18 here in Minneapolis. Breaking ball misses low, and it's 2 balls and a strike. The only hit yielded by Scott Baker today was a leadoff double by Adrian Beltre back in the 5th. And that's it, folks. On one hop to short for Casilla, who bobbles and recovers in time to get Murphy.
Really nice play there by Casilla. This ball is hit like a bullet. Stays in front of it, doesn't panic. Gets it across the diamond just ahead of Daniel Murphy.
So 1 gone for Andy Chavez. Chavez also lined to center in his first plate appearance today. Popped him up. Danny Valencia settles under it for out number 2. Time for a direct TV game break. Reds and Giants in San Francisco, and it wasn't just Colby Lewis who struggled on this day. 2-time Cy Young Award winner Tim Lincecum knocked around at home. 7 earned runs. Matches the most he's ever allowed at the big league level. That's in the bottom of the 5th out west, and it's 7-0 Reds.
Well, you certainly didn't expect that, especially Lincecum at home.
Here's Ian Kinsler with 2 gone and the bases empty. Hey, we're remiss in not congratulating Ian Kinsler yet, Mark.
We owe him a big hearty congratulations. He became a father again. Am I right?
You are correct. In fact, this is his first game in the last 3. He was on Major League Baseball's player paternity list on a paternity leave. Wife Tess, as you see there, giving birth to the couple's 2nd child Wednesday. So congratulations to Ian and Tess Kinsler.
I'm sure Ian hadn't had much sleep the last couple days.
Ball and 2 strikes.
Missed.
Yeah, you can make the case that his getting out of the house, to join the team in the middle of a road trip is more relaxing than being at home with 2 kids. On 1 sharp hop for Danny Valencia, and another 1-2-3 inning for Scott Baker. Played 5.5, still 7-0 Twins. Presented by Sprint. Twins on top of the Rangers 7-0 as we start the bottom half of the sixth, and Dave Bush goes back to work. Called on early today.
Yeah, he's done a heck of a job for Ron Washington. Colby Lewis got hit very hard for the second outing in a row. Dave Bush has really done a good job of coming in and restoring order and giving that Texas bullpen some much needed help.
0-2 the count to Matt Tolbert leading things off for Minnesota. Tolbert, Revere, and Casilla here for the Twins. That's jerked into the corner and just fouled. The numbers on Dave Bush. He's allowed the 1 earned run. That came in the fourth. Has not walked a batter since coming on from the bullpen. And meanwhile, Scott Baker has been terrific for Minnesota.
It's been a very easy day at the ballpark thus far for Scott Baker. Just one blemish. A double to Adrian Beltre. Other than that, perfection.
Wrapped to first for Mitch Moreland. And one gone to start the sixth. Twins have played defense behind their starter as well, and Ben Revere has been responsible for not one but two terrific catches. This was the one that really grabbed everybody's attention with David Murphy at the plate. A terrific diving grab in the third.
The ball slicing away from him. Just turned on the jets. That extra fifth gear that I didn't possess, Matt.
Hey, hockey suit. Dave Bush knocks it down. What they call a skate save and a beauty.
That one took a pretty good bite out of him, too. He's a tough kid, and he's not going to rub it, but he's hurting right now. Right in the leg area.
Well, you could hear that.
Yeah. He's one of the tougher kids you'll see.
So two gone on a fine play by the reliever Dave Bush. Going to leave him be out there for the time being. A reminder, help make a baseball moment kids will never forget. Go to ChevyBaseball.com to support youth baseball, plus enter to win one of 4 trips to the 2011 All-Star Game and the keys to a new Chevrolet. Going to have Dave Bush throw a little bit, a couple of pitches to make sure everything's all right. And he gives Ron Washington the okay. He will continue with 2 out in the inning. Now, to have a swing man the quality of Dave Bush is a luxury that not all 30 teams can afford. Let's face it, true. He'd be in the rotation in about half the cities in the league today.
No question. And that's a big reason why Texas finds itself looking down on the rest of the American League West, because of guys like Bush that can come in and fill in these spots when a starter has a poor outing.
0-1 to Alexi Casilla, batting with the bases empty and 2 gone. 3 hits this afternoon for the Twins shortstop. And he's been one of the players that Ron Gardenhire has been quick to compliment. In fact, Gardy was as quick to compliment him as he was to condemn him earlier in the season. Condemn is probably too strong a word, but
I liked it.
Casilla was struggling, and Ron Gardenhire was concerned. Fundamental breakdowns on base.
And that's something that's just not tolerated under Ron Gardenhire.
Casilla was hitting 175 as recently as May 14th. Here's some other splits, and you can see how he's picked it up over the last 2.5 weeks.
Well, it's the cold.
Right. It's too cold for baseball, like everybody else around the league. 2 balls and 2 strikes to him. You know, this is a guy, Gracie, who came into today's game with not a lot of big league time. 280 career hits, but 5 walk-off hits in the 9th inning. So he has a flair for the dramatic. And that's the first time the Rangers have been able to retire him this afternoon. 7 in a row retired by Dave Bush. We're back after this word from your local Fox station. Men, keep your edge spotlight. Scott Baker kept everybody on the edge of their seat with 4 perfect innings to start the afternoon. And just as Scott Baker gives the Minnesota Twins the edge, you too can keep your edge with a Just for Men mustache and beard. Just for Men. Scott Baker keeping his edge with a very quick out to open the 7th as he gets Elvis Andrus on 1 pitch.
So cruising right along with a 7-run lead, and then you get a first pitch out off the bat of Elvis Andrus. Boy, you're loving life right now if you're Scott Baker.
Like the Hall of Famer Vin Scully used to say on days that Bob Gibson would match up against Sandy Koufax, pitching like he's double parked. And that's the way Scott Baker's going about his business today.
Working fast, throwing strikes.
Out in front of Josh Hamilton, 0-1. Out in front of Josh Hamilton, 0-2.
Well, Josh struck out a couple of times here this afternoon, and then he just missed a hanging slider to fall behind 0-2. So far, hasn't been Josh's day.
Adrian Beltre next. He has the only base hit of the afternoon for Texas today. You know, in this prolonged discussion, Mark, the whole year of the pitcher part 2 that started last year, as we tip our caps to the original year of the pitcher, 1968. It's continued this year with this no-hitter story. 2 of them this year as Hamilton strikes out. And more often than not, we're talking about guys taking no-hit bids into the 5th, 6th, 7th. It's happening so much more frequently than in years past. In fact, this year, 38 pitchers have taken a no-hitter through 5 innings. Baker got through 4 today as Adrian Beltre, the guy who ruined his no-hit bid in the 5th digs in now. But there have been a couple of no-hitters. Francisco Liriano, Justin Verlander.
And a lot of near misses.
Popped him up. Matt Tolbert fighting the high sky, and the quickest of 1, 2, 3 innings in the 7th. They're up and stretching in Minneapolis with the home team on top 7-zip. And by Ink from Chase, introducing Jot, the real-time mobile expense tracking app. Bottom half of the 7th inning, Rangers running out of time on the road. The Twins will have Michael Kadire to open. Kadire, Young, and Tassoni here in the 7th. 7 runs on 10 hits for Minnesota. Only 1 base hit all afternoon for the high-powered Rangers. Extra bases for Michael Kadire. Throw into second base will be cut off, and Michael Kadire gets himself into scoring position to open the 7th. Comes Mike Maddox now just to chat with Dave Bush. There is activity in the Rangers bullpen, as we've talked about a number of times. Bush has been out there since the 2nd. Yoshinori Tateyama is up in the bullpen. He has been up since the start of the inning.
And Dave Bush might be in some pain still from that line drive. We're going to see if this is an injury report or a trip to the mound. Let's hope Dave Bush is okay now.
Bush hit by a comebacker last inning off the bat of Ben Revere. And
he just gave up the ball.
Yeah, this is going to be it for him. So a pitching change for Texas, their 2nd of the afternoon. Enter Yoshinori Tateyama. We'll be right back. roll on top 7-0, and they've got a duck on the pond, a runner in scoring position here with nobody out in the home 7th. Second pitching change of the afternoon by Ron Washington. It's Yoshinori Tateyama who takes over for Dave Bush here in the 7th. Tateyama making his 8th appearance of the year this afternoon. And before the game, the Twins celebrated a man who made a number of appearances here in the Twin Cities. 17 years in the big leagues, and today Jim Perry joined this illustrious list. Rick Aguilera, Rod Carew, Gary Gaetti in being inducted into the Twins Hall of Fame.
Tom Kelly down there, Bert Blyleven, he's on his way to Cooperstown shortly. And there's the first pitch. Congratulations to Jim Perry, well deserved.
Well, he looks terrific. 75-year-old Jim Perry, 24-win season and a Cy Young Award in 1970. His family is all here to watch him take his rightful place in the Twins Hall of Fame.
A couple old teammates of mine down there when I was with the Chicago Cubs, Gary Gaetti and Rick Aguilera.
So a runner at second now. And this is the situation inherited by Yoshinori Tateyama. Delman Young has singled twice, driven in a run, and scored today. Batting in the cleanup spot this afternoon. Not in his customary 5-hole, the position that he hit for most of 2010 and had a lot of success, we might add. He and Robinson Cano, two of the more productive 5-hole hitters in all of baseball last year. But unlike Cano, whose supporting cast has been healthy this season, Delman Young's is not. It certainly hasn't slowed him down today as he knocks in another run with extra bases here in the 7th.
Well, we've seen a lot of pitches right in the middle of the zone from the Rangers. This is not one of them, folks. This ball is in off the plate. And Delman Young just pulls his hands in beautifully. That's a very difficult pitch to keep fair, to hit on the barrel and keep it fair. You see, that pitch was almost 6-7 inches inside. That's just great hitting by Delman Young.
Here's Rene Tassoni now. Delman Young and Michael Kadire trading places at second. 8-0 Minnesota. So not only do the Twins have Delman Young moving up to the 4th spot, they've got Rene Tassoni DHing today. On the ground to the right side, Moreland gets there nicely to record the play. With the pitcher covering, there's one away.
This is a really good play here on both ends. Watch the first baseman. He's got a range. Now he pirouettes. And then watch, perfect strike to the pitcher covering. Pitcher knowing right where he is, steps on the bag. That's just beautifully done by the first baseman and the pitcher.
So the Rangers bring the infield in now for Danny Valencia. And Tateyama fires strike one. Everybody moving up in the order today, and it merits repeating because we didn't really get our hands around it earlier, Mark. The fact that Joe Mauer, who has been absent for most of the season so far, is getting a little bit closer. And when we visited with Ron Gardenhire today, he expressed some optimism. Joe homered yesterday at Class A Fort Myers. In fact, the A-ball manager down there is Joe Mauer's brother, Jake. So if there's anybody that's going to know exactly how Joe Mauer's feeling, you'd guess between Ron Gardenhire and his brother, who's managing an A-ball, they're going to have a pretty good feel for Joe Mauer getting back here. And it could happen
within a week. Boy, that would be a huge shot in the arm for this organization, this team, these fans.
Valencia pops it up off the end of the bat. Moreland has a play, and that's the second out of the inning. Yeah, one of the things the Twins were waiting for was they wanted Joe Mauer to feel well enough on the rehab stint to where he caught 3 straight days,
right,
which he has, because this bilateral leg weakness, and that's the doctor talk.
It's very impressive on your part.
I have no idea what it means, but that's what it says in the media guide, Jim. That it's the kind of mysterious thing that only Joe Mauer is going to know when he's feeling better. And the speculation has been that after the offseason knee surgery, it just took Joe a lot longer to get himself back to full speed than he originally thought. Brian Dinkelman, the batter now, with the runner at 3rd and 2 gone. Well, here are the numbers with and without Joe Mauer. The offensive numbers are down. Pitching numbers are up.
A 2-time batting champion, and he just hasn't been playing.
Well, that's pretty powerful stuff. They hit 20 points lower without Joe Mauer in the lineup. And, as you mentioned, Mark, it all stands to reason. You take the best player off any team.
Absolutely.
Right? Take Pujols away from the Cardinals, et cetera, et cetera. It's going to be a different look.
And then you add on top of it a former MVP, Justin Morneau. Now it's like going over to, let's say, the Milwaukee Brewers and saying, by the way, for about a month, you're not going to have Prince Fielder and you're not going to have Ryan Braun. And see how you do. That's tough sledding.
2 balls and 2 strikes, the count to Brian Dinkelman.
But injuries are certainly part of the game, and you don't hear Ron Gardner whining about it or making excuses. That's why we were saying earlier, just go out there and keep playing the game. They're starting to turn things around here a little bit in Minnesota. They've started playing better baseball the last 10 days.
Scott Baker hasn't needed much help today. There's been nobody up in the Twins bullpen all afternoon. I mean, that's how dominant Baker has been. Still 2 balls and 2 strikes with Brian Dinkelman. Back to the pitcher. And Tateyama takes care of Dinkelman to retire the side. On an afternoon when the Twins celebrate an all-time pitching great, a current Twin is turning in a gem. Scott Baker going back to work for an 8th inning this afternoon, and why not? He has allowed all of 1 base hit to the high-powered Texas Ranger offense today. Nelson Cruz leads things off. Cruz, Moreland, and Napoli. 8-0 Twins. A 5-run first. Minnesota chased Colby Lewis in the second, and they have not missed a stride since.
Yeah, this is just a very difficult lineup to pitch to, but Scott Baker, through 7 innings, has made it look very easy. That was easy.
Good morning, good afternoon, good night to Nelson Cruz.
Fastball right over the outside corner, right by Nelson Cruz.
6 strikeouts for Scott Baker today. He is the staff leader now. Check that, 7 punch outs for him. The staff leader with 78 on the season.
Just pounding the strike zone, Matt.
Out in front of Mitch Moreland, 0-1. The 7 strikeouts for Scott Baker today are noteworthy, not just in terms of his leading the staff this year. You mentioned the name of Kevin Tapani earlier, the right-hander to whom there's been comparison with Scott Baker. Baker just passed Kevin Tapani for 10th place on the all-time list. So in Twins franchise history now, Scott Baker has cracked the strikeouts top 10.
And there have been a lot of real good ones that have towed the rubber in Minneapolis. And he has been a joy to watch pitch here this afternoon. It's been a clinic.
He's not a guy that comes top of mind when you talk about, pitchers that miss a lot of bats, as that's bounced to Kadire.
No, certainly not.
But his swing and miss ratio is among the best in the American League this year. Hey, Fox Sports is proud to support Stand Up to Cancer in their work to fund groundbreaking research that helps accelerate treatment of patients. Stand up for someone you love. Visit standuptocancer.org/Fox Sports to learn more. Two quick outs for Baker here in the 8th, and now it's Mike Napoli. Napoli 0 for 2 today. Sound like a broken record saying that on a night when they've got 1 base hit. 1-1. It's been relatively efficient. 11 of the 25 have gotten the first pitch strike. But in all of Major League Baseball, when you talk about swings put into play, there's only one qualified starter in all the big leagues who has a lower percentage of swings put into play, and that's the outstanding Seattle right-hander Michael Pineda.
Oh, goodness.
But, that's apples and oranges. Pineda is a pure stuff guy, mid-90s.
Mid-90s, exactly. Wicked split fingers. Yep. Baker's just, he's more of the kind of the box lunch guy. He's not going to be spectacular. He's not going to throw 100 miles an hour. He's just a workman, a blue-collar type guy.
And Mitch Moreland fights him off for a 2-out base hit. Mike Napoli, rather, with a 2-out base hit. And that's just the second safety of the ball game for the Rangers. Well, if you didn't write down any names on your scorecard today and you just kind of flipped it over,
right?
You'd guess the one with all the smudges and all the runs scored was that of the Rangers. This big offense, pounding opponents into submission.
Exactly. I mean, it just never lets up, this lineup. But boy, has Scott Baker tamed it.
David Murphy now. And Napoli running without a throw down to second. No stolen base on that play. Fielder's indifference cited to advance the base runner.
These Minnesota fans have gotten to see an absolute gem from this right-hander.
And that's into the corner. And it's going to break up Scott Baker's shutout. Texas is on the scoreboard on a 2-out single by David Murphy.
Well, just when you start to heap all that praise on him with 2 outs, Murphy drives in a run. You talked about his success here at this ballpark, and it just continues. So the shutout is certainly broken. And that's why that fielder's indifference. You know, you steal the base right there. Tell Scott Baker, who now gets an earned run because of that, that's not a stolen base.
You know, I was just going to ask you about that. As Endy Chavez takes a strike, it does, and I know where you're going. But if I'm Scott Baker right now,
right,
I'm probably a little chapped about that.
Well, exactly.
It's 8-0. While you're running, we're not holding you on. Back-to-back base hits, and that ruins a shutout. Now, I understand you play all 9, right? The Rangers,
sure,
they're not out of it yet. Game's not over. I get it.
Yeah, but defensive indifference now, as that, whatever that means, defensive indifference. Well, it just cost Scott Baker an earned run.
Trying to finish 8 innings this afternoon. This would tie his longest start of the year. Popped up. Rivera has a play to retire the side. Texas does get on the scoreboard for the first time today, however. Bottom of the 8th, 8-1 Minnesota. Today's game presented by Sprint is sponsored by Jeep and by the makers of New Bayer Advanced Aspirin, the official pain reliever of Major League Baseball. Kind of a painful afternoon if you're a Rangers fan. Not so for the home faithful. 8-1 Minnesota as we've moved to the bottom of the 8th. Back with Mark Grace, Matt Vasgersian, and a pitching change for the Rangers. Their 4th arm of the afternoon is the 20-year veteran Arthur Rose.
Still throwing very hard. Big Arthur Rhodes just defies Father Time. Father Time, by the way, is undefeated. Wouldn't you say?
Yeah, he's got a pretty good track record. Swinging to misses. Rene Rivera's out on his front foot. Well, for Art Rhodes this year, things have not come as easily to him as they did last year when he was an all-star with the Reds. And it's not that Arthur Rhodes has hit the wall. It's that the situation that he has been put in is completely different than last year. Pitching in the National League. Doesn't have to face a DH.
Right.
Not pitching his home games in Arlington. Granted, Great American Ballpark is no walk in the park for a pitcher.
At all.
But last year, he's a part of a late inning bullpen equation that had him getting the ball to Coco Cordero. Left-handed specialist, playing to his strengths. This year, because there's been some disarray in the Ranger bullpen, Ron Washington and Mike Maddox have had to use him in less than ideal circumstances, and I think a lot of that explains the ERA, which is near 6 right now.
Yeah, when you're a left-handed specialist for a couple of years and then you come over and all of a sudden you're having to face some tough right-handers as well. That's a whole different animal.
Full count, 3 balls and 2 strikes. Almost 1,000 career games. What the Jesse Orosco is going on there? My goodness.
He has had a fabulous career.
20 years in the big leagues. On the ground to third. And Adrian Beltre's got it. There's 1 away. Art Rhodes, an all-star last year, and this July, baseball's biggest stars will gather in Arizona for one spectacular night in the summer's biggest event, as Fox brings you every thrilling moment of the 2011 Major League All-Star Game. Coverage begins Tuesday, July 12th, live from Phoenix at 8 Eastern, 5 Pacific, only on Fox. 1 gone now for the number 9 hitter, Matt Tolbert.
Have you been filling out your ballots?
I've been doing it online.
Have you?
Yeah. You know, you're sitting in the office, you're in the cube farm, you got nothing going on. You can only play Angry Birds so much.
Very. I'm the old school. I'm still punching with the pencil.
Well, I know that you haven't punched this many Yankees on your ballot, because at last check in the American League, six Yankees lead at their positions.
It's going to be the Yankees versus the National League All-Stars.
Wow. A ball and 2 strikes to Matt Tolbert. Take another look at the American League ballot. A-Rod,
The entire
Jeter,
infield.
Granderson, Cano, Teixeira, and Russell Martin. That is amazing.
I like the fact that out in the outfield they're getting it right, though. Granderson is having a fabulous year. And I love the fact that even up in Toronto, where you don't hear as much about Jose Bautista, they're getting it right with him.
What's the one name that is most glaringly absent to you? I mean, based on the fact that he's been there for every year
all
for the last
time,
decade.
And he is struggling a little bit this year, and that's Ichiro Suzuki.
Yeah.
And I'll go. Let me pose this question to you, because there's one out here in the 8th inning. If Ichiro Suzuki had played the 10 years in the major leagues that he had to play over in Japan, because Japanese players can't come over here until after 10 years, I think he'd be awfully close to passing Pete Rose.
I think, yeah, if you just do the simple math,
right.
Yeah, and add the Japanese league hits together,
he would, and that's a record that we all say will never be broken. But if there was one guy, I think if you would have given him his first 10 years in the major leagues, I think he would be the only guy that could do it. Just food for thought.
Ball and no strikes, the count to Ben Revere. It's almost like 2 different conversations when you talk about who's absent from the leading vote getters. Ichiro pops out at you just because he's been there and he's been the leading vote getter in the past. The one guy.
Well, and over in Japan, they want to see their stars. They vote and they love seeing it.
Curtis Granderson is very deserving this year.
Yes.
In fact, he hit his 20th home run today in a 4-0 Yankee shutout win. Into the left field corner, run down by Murphy to retire the side in the 8th. We're heading to the 9th. One last chance for the Rangers, down big on the road today. By Sprint, back with Mark Grace, Matt Vasgersian. The dialogue has been all Minnesota Twins here at Target Field today. They lead the Rangers 8-1 and are 3 outs away from finishing the deal. Scott Baker specifically 3 outs away, Mark, from his first complete game since 2009. Ian Kinsler, Elvis Andrus, and Josh Hamilton stand in the way.
And he got a thunderous ovation when he emerged from the dugout to go out for this half of the 9th inning. These Minnesota fans, they're knowledgeable and they appreciate the effort they've seen from Scott Baker here this afternoon.
Looking for his 4th career complete game, as you saw a moment ago, last one coming 2 years ago. He's got Ian Kinsler in an 0-2 hole and a base hit back up the middle. It's the 4th hit of the ball game for Texas, and 3 of those 4 have come after the 7th inning. All quiet on the bullpen front. Elvis Andrus takes a strike. Andrus hitless so far today. You know, the Rangers hitting ranks under new management the past handful of days. And it certainly is noteworthy when a team that's had the kind of offensive success that the Rangers have had this year, when they make a change in the coaching ranks. Thad Bosley, who was here as the hitting coach for 2011, replacing Clint Hurdle, who went on to manage in Pittsburgh, was let go during the week in favor of former Ranger Scott Coolbaugh, who's still within his first week on the job. And I don't think anybody's going to judge Scott Coolbaugh after such a small body of work.
Of course.
And certainly today's not the day where you go back and hang it on the hitting coach, but it's just proof to something that many of us have known for quite a long time, Mark, and you better than anybody. Hitting coach, first to blame, last to get the credit.
No question. And probably the hardest worker of all coaches, spending hours and hours with so many different hitters. And every hitter has a different approach, so you've got to make what's right for Ian Kinsler doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be right for Elvis Andrus. They're very different hitters. So it's just a thankless task, unfortunately.
2 balls and 2 strikes. Scott Baker retired the first 12 he faced tonight. Into the opposite field. Dinkelman is there for it. 2 outs away from the complete game. Now for today's Valvoline Next Gen Right play of the game. A series of plays, a series of pitches by Scott Baker, who in making his 13th start of the year here today has turned in an absolute gem. So far, limiting the Rangers to just a run on 4 hits. He has struck out 7 and passed Kevin Tapani for 10th place on the Twins' all-time strikeout list. One out, one on now for Josh Hamilton. But Josh Hamilton probably has looked the most uncomfortable of all the Rangers today.
I agree. It has been a rough go for the MVP. 3 strikeouts, and he takes strike 1 here.
He whacks a base hit into right here in his 4th try. Kinsler will wrap around to 3rd. Runners at the corners now with 1 gone in the 9th.
That's more about what you expect. from Josh Hamilton. And the Twins have to get their bullpen going. I would imagine Ron Gardner are going to keep a very close lookout now on Scott Baker as he starts to fatigue here in the 9th inning.
Alex Burnett and Phil Duma trade up in the bullpen behind Baker. And here's Adrian Beltre now. See the pitch count on Baker at 110. That represents his biggest workload of the year. I do not want to be one of these guys, Gracie, that falls into the pitch count watch every 2 or 3 outs, as we're so accustomed to doing in today's game.
Anymore, you're right.
Beltre's double back in the 5th. Shattered bat, maybe a double play ball. Casilla to Tolbert, back to Kagire, and that's how they wrap it up. Scott Baker with a brilliant complete game victory here at home today, and the Twins have taken the first 2 out of the 3 in this 4-game set with the reigning American League champs.
Only fitting that it ends like this. 6-4-3. Scott Baker is complete game. Had the Texas Rangers basically eaten out of his hand the entire afternoon. So congratulations to Scott Baker. That was an absolute gem.
Scott Baker's first complete game since 2009. His biggest pitch count since 2009. Hey, don't look now, Cleveland and Chicago, because here come the Minnesota Twins. Yeah, there's a road to hoe, but they've won 7 of now 8 of their last 10.
And they're getting healthier.
8-1 Twins, the final score today. We're back right after this.